We're jumping over to the Keystone State. The tours are coming to an end, and MLB's real opening day is just about here. We hope everybody survived the madness and stopped your friggin' whining and bitching about the tournament. But we're back to baseball here. And again, as I said, the Keystone State, Primanti brothers, Tony Lukes. There we go. I already pissed off everybody in Philadelphia. It's the Pirates and Phillies. Of course, my right-hand man, the closer, and also the leadoff hitter. Vegas Mac, what's going on, my man?
Not much. Can't wait. You know what? I kind of wish baseball didn't start on a Thursday. I mean, we won't go there, but I'm excited. The games are going to matter.
Yeah, I'll have plenty of thoughts on Wednesday night about what I think of how this has been handled here. But we got two interesting teams here, and the theme in the Keystone State is it's an arms race, and both of these teams have pitching. One of these teams, we don't know if they can score any runs, and one of these teams, we don't know if it's going to look the same at the All-Star break. So let's get started first with the Buccos, with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and of course, I couldn't go any further. It's been a few days for us, but I can't go any further without my leadoff hitter. Max, start us off. Your first thoughts on the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Something about this city is not right.
There's a lot going on in Pittsburgh sports right now. I
tried to make it about baseball, but I can't. It's just
between the Pens and the Steelers and the Pirates. There's a lot going on in Pittsburgh, and of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't start us with the Pirates, Mac, by saying here we are with another cheap ass owner in Bob Nutting. I'm getting all my cheap ass owners confused here. One playoff victory for the Buccos. Series victory since 1979. Interesting times in Pittsburgh because, as we all know, the clock is ticking because of the Rookie of the Year for Paul Skeens. That gives him a year of service time. Is Paul Skeens going to be a Pirate in 5 years is a very interesting question, and he had some thoughts on that I'll get to in a little bit. But what do you make of the situation in Pittsburgh? I think we all attract to the greatness that we've seen out of Paul Skeens, and the rest of this staff is really damn good. But are they ever going to try from an ownership standpoint?
I mean, there's been that line going around that it's been now 10 years since they've signed a multi-year contract. That's just stupid. That's stupid. Yeah. I mean, that right off the bat, that's just telling me that you don't care. And I don't understand. I'll get on my soapbox early on this one, Mike. I don't understand. Number one, you have probably one of the top 3, 4 at the least stadiums in Major League Baseball. Without a doubt.
I have not seen that one yet, but it looks like it.
Dude, you don't want to leave. It's an amazing stadium. The area around it is great. You have passionate fans. We know that because, just across the street, those right there, those black and yellow right there, those guys play right across the street, so the fans are passionate. They want to win. It blows my mind when you look at these two franchises and just in a little bit, you have, the Steelers who, again, they got their own issues, but 3 coaches in like the last 50 years, all kinds of Super Bowl championships. And then you've got the Pirates. How can you not, as an owner, feed off of that? And then again, we throw in the Penguins. Yeah, they're down a little bit, but the Penguins. I don't understand. I don't understand any of it from a Pirates standpoint. And with the pitching staff that they have right now, how you don't add something to that lineup, that is a total head scratcher to me.
Yeah, I'm going to read you this quote here. The guy is a frog in my throat. I'm going to read you this quote here to our guys over at Talking Baseball on X, and this is Paul Skeens via Alex Stumpf of MLB.com. Skeen says, we owe something to the city. This is bigger than all of us. There's a reason why Kutch keeps coming back. Andrew McCutcheon. We've seen the videos of the wild card game. I'm tired of watching them because it was a wild card. The fact that that's the golden era of recent Pirates baseball, that needs to change. Obviously didn't directly name names there, but I mean, there's a guy who is now telling you early in his career, I like this place a lot, and we need to bring that energy back here, and we need to do whatever we can to bring that energy back here. And I like that. I like that he's stepped up to that level because, and we've seen it when the Pirates have, again, it's been a long ass time, but we've seen how this team will gravitate. I mean, the lines last year, just to see Paul Skeens pitch for a team that was nowhere near postseason contention, you get this team back towards postseason contention, that city will lose their friggin' minds.
Yeah, I think with that what that quote right there, Mike, is a announcement to the Pirates organization, say, you've got me on this really, I mean, as friendly a contract as you can, my rookie contract. I know I'm good. I'm going to cost a lot. You got about a year or so, maybe 2, to decide to do something, or I'm out of here. I mean, that's how I read that. That's reading between a lot of lines, but I don't think I'm too far off on that.
Yeah, and again, as we do these last couple of spring training tours here, we appreciate everybody following and watching along. Feel free to comment. Follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana Show, everywhere but Snapchat, because we're not 12 and Snapchat sucks. So as we're doing this, there is more information on all of these teams. We'll have the Phillies here in just a little bit tonight, the LA Dodgers tomorrow, and they're a full season preview show on Wednesday. There's a lot of information coming in, a lot of guys making rosters, a lot of guys being told they're going to make rosters, a lot of guys being sent down. And one of the biggest things, and as always, we're going to start with pitching when it comes to the Pirates. And outside of Paul Skeens, have a very exciting staff. But, and there's a but, as of right now, there is no results that have been made public as far as the imaging goes for right-handed pitcher stud, who also had a really good year, Jared Jones. He's dealing with some elbow issues and right elbow discomfort, which is always a thing you don't want to hear, because that leads to, UCLs, it leads to Tommy Johns. Again, no information as of right this second has been made public. I've got everything I can up in front of me here just in case something happens while we're doing this. But, this is a staff with Skeens and Jones and Keller and Andrew Heaney, Bailey Falter. They've got Johan Oviedo, who's dealing with some elbow injuries. But they also got a couple guys that are knocking on the door to come up to the big club. And the first one that we might see sooner rather than later because of the situation with Jared Jones is Bubba Chandler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when you suck for so long. You get good draft picks, and when you get good draft picks, you should create a good farm system. And what the Pirates did, I mean, we kind of get on them a little bit, but what they've done is they've acquired arms. It starts with Skeens. We know, I mean, Jones last year got pushed into that rotation because of injuries, and Keller, and as you said, Chandler. This is, if the Pittsburgh Pirates did this right with this staff, Mike, they could be set for the next 10 years. I mean, and I'm talking like we're talking, and I don't care what division they're in. I'm talking not just National League. I'm talking this could be a World Series type team with that pitching staff. They're that good. And so now they have to figure out, how do we go about and kind of move things around and get these guys some help. But these arms, again, like you said, Skeens, Keller, Acevedo, and then Chandler, and who else there was? Ludzinski was named the 5th starter today. I mean, they have talented arms, and it's what a lot of teams don't have. I mean, they don't need a 6-man rotation. They're fine as there is. Now, of course, the big question is with Skeens, how are they going to push him this year? Are they just going to let the animal go, or are they still going to kind of, taper him down a little bit? That's going to be the big question.
Yeah, and another question that I have when I look at their staff is you got Mitch Keller, who's been very, very good, but he's got over 530 innings pitched over the last 3 seasons. So a lot of miles on that arm as well. And I'm sure if I was in the room with the Pirates, A, I could tell them how to actually like run an organization and want to try and win. But B, they don't want to bring Bubba Chandler up before their original plan, but that might be taken out of their hands. They also have Braxton Ashcraft and Thomas Harrington down there as well. So again, just like we were saying, loaded with arms. The question with this team is, can David Bednar bounce back for them in the closer role? And if he can, he's probably going to get shipped out of town for future assets. So that's another big thing with them. They have Dennis Santana. They got a pair of Yankees and Caleb Ferguson and Tim Meza. Colin Holderman. Like, I really, really do like this bullpen, assuming that Bednar can bounce back. If Bednar's how he was last year, he's not worth a damn on the trade market. And there's going to be plenty of teams. And we've already talked about the entire American League East, with the exception of the Blue Jays. Everybody really kind of needs pitching. So if Bednar's a guy for one of these teams that has a closer, God forbid, go down, because we don't want to see anybody get hurt, or teams that really, like the Diamondbacks, that are going to give Justin Martinez the first chance there, but Dre Jameson's in the mix, and then AJ Puck. Like, there's plenty of teams that have an unsure closing situation. David Bednar could be a massively valuable piece for somebody if he can bounce back. But that's a big if, because last year he did not look good.
Yeah, I mean, he had that one stretch in the middle. It was a sandwich year for him. He started off terrible. He had a great run in the middle of the season. I think he had like 12 or 13 straight saves in a row. And then he just kind of tailed off at the end. And they will need the bullpen. I mean, they do. I mean, the starting pitching is good. But I still think they're going to be somewhat protective of the arms as they go forward. Excuse me. We may see some of those younger guys come up. And again, I applaud them for that, of taking care of those arms. And another year for Skeens, still with a little bit of management, I think will be good. But with that being said, they're going to need a bullpen to back up that pitching staff.
Yeah, absolutely. And the biggest question is with the Pirates is you can pitch 2-0 games all you want. The problem is are you going to get the 2? Their offense was absolutely dreadful last year. The only offensive bat they really brought in was Tommy Pham, who I like for a lot of reasons in the makeup of this lineup and with the makeup of this team in general. The big thing with O'Neal Cruz now playing center field, Brian Reynolds goes back to right. So you got Pham, Reynolds, and Cruz at the top of the order. And I think a lot of people are looking at O'Neal Cruz this year. I've even seen some people, and I hate when people do this, but I'm going to use it for the sake of conversation here. Is O'Neal Cruz going to be the guy that breaks out a la Ellie Dela Cruz? And if he does, that makes this Pirates team a massive, massive difference when it comes to the offense. But just talk about the top third of that projected order there with Pham, Reynolds, and Cruz.
Yeah, I mean, Tommy Pham, here's how you know he's valuable. It seems like every year at the trade deadline, he gets traded to a team that's in a playoff run. That's how you know he's a valuable player. He's a good veteran to have on that team. Just don't do the fantasy football thing. I love Brian Reynolds. He's one of my favorite players. There was a time where the Red Sox were looking at him. I was praying upon prayers that he was going to go to Boston. He's just a good young player for them. And again, like you said, Kutch is there. I mean, he brings that veteran presence as well. And I know one of your favorite guys, former Giants catcher Joey Bart, in that lineup. They're expecting a lot from him as well. He was much better than he was with the Giants. Let's just kind of go with that. The other one is Brian Hayes. I think they need to get more out of him as well. IKF, he's not going to be much offense. He's there more for his defense and whatnot. Again, there's not a lot there. I mean, there's not even a lot of. I mean, Jack Sawinski's one guy that didn't have a real good year. They sent him down last year for the most part. They need power from him. It's just going to be interesting to see if they can have some of these guys kind of, I guess, just play a little bit better, but there's just not a lot there.
Yeah, and the thing with Brian Hayes is when he's healthy, he's been pretty solid, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. In the spring, they've actually had him, and he's worked on this a lot. And early returns it's making at least a positive difference so far. They've got him to more of a two-handed swing to try and not put so much pressure on that injury and just to re-aggravate the injury, if you will. So if he can stay healthy and O'Neal Cruz does have kind of that breakout year, then we're talking about an offense in the Central that can compete, I believe. One of the big decisions in spring training for the Pirates was the backup catcher. And today they ended up going with Andy Rodriguez. And the thought there was, could he benefit from everyday at bats down in AAA? Would that benefit him more? It was between Jason DeLay, Henry Davis, Andy Rodriguez, and Derek Shelton said it today after the news came out that Rodriguez was going to be the backup catcher. It was important for them to let Andy know what they thought of him as a catcher. So he'll be the one paired with Joey Bart. The first base situation obviously is something else that was out of their control. Spencer Horwitz was supposed to be the guy, and he'll probably be the guy, but right wrist surgery is going to shelf him. And they've been playing around a little bit with Adam Frazier, with DJ Stewart. Interested to see who actually gets the nod on opening day at first base for the Pirates. But, again, this is one of those teams that, you don't have any faith in that they're going to go make a move that's, if they're close. And I don't know how close they'll be, but we also have talked in length, and we'll talk more about this on Wednesday's season preview show. The Central is not a world beater division. I mean, you can get hot and make a lot of ground in the Central. And I think with this pitching staff, that's kind of at least the hope going into the season for the Pirates, is that they progress forward. O'Neal Cruz, Paul Skeens, all these guys just continue to move forward. And you get hot at the right time, you can make a run in the Central.
Yeah, we saw it last year in the American League Central. It's exactly what the Detroit Tigers did. They got hot at the right time, and that's kind of a team that I look at. The Tigers really, really good pitching. The Pirates really, really good pitching. The Tigers, we don't quite know what we're going to get offensively, and the same with the Pirates. So I kind of see a lot of similarities between those two teams. So again, like you said, a 2 or 3 week stretch where you play really well, you can put yourself in a position to play some meaningful games in September and October.
Again, feel free to comment. We got one right there. See, I'm not the only one that thinks this team maybe can make a run. Billy out there saying that he thinks the Pirates could be a wild card team. And I think that's probably the high ceiling for the Pirates. The Jared Jones thing is not ideal, obviously. And you hope for the best there because he is one of the more exciting younger pitchers in all of baseball. And like you said, I mean, they're set up for, it almost sounded like you said you were going to say 10 decades. And it could feel like that if these guys all stay here between Chandler and Harrington, Ashcraft, Keller is going to be an interesting one. Skeens and Jared Jones. I mean, they're set up really, really good. You want to play a game? We haven't gotten to do this. We haven't gotten to do this in a while. All right. No. I'm going to throw in a curveball here. Right. Curveball. I'm going to start with Paul Skeens to win the Cy Young is 3-1 at plus 300. He is the favorite in the National League. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. For the Pirates to miss the playoffs, it is a minus 475. For the Pirates to make the playoffs, it's a plus 360. If you're curious, for the Pirates to win the Central, it's 7-1. The National League pennant is 60-1, and the Pirates World Series odds, as of the last time I checked, right before we went live here, 120-1. And the over-under on wins for the Buccos is 77.5, and they're coming off a back-to-back 76 and 86 season. So while you think about that for a second, reset the schedule here. As you saw today, TJ talked a little bit about the Angels situation that went out to all of our social channels today, including on YouTube. And, tomorrow we'll talk about the defending champs, the LA Dodgers. And then again, our season preview show is Wednesday night, and that'll air at 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. That'll be on our YouTube and our Facebook channels. All right, Vegas Mac.
All right.
$100 of my money. What are you doing with it?
since it's not my money, and I'm feeling like I need to make up some money from the weekend, I'm going to say they make the playoffs.
I like it. I mean, there's insanely good value there at plus 360.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
and you might need the Pirates to make the playoffs to cover some of these whack ball picks you've thrown out here. So that is the Pittsburgh Pirates. We will move along the Keystone State. Let me see if I can get the card throw. I haven't done this in a couple days. Probably lose an eyeball here. That was better.
Oh.
Let's talk about the Philadelphia Phillies, shall we?
Wait a minute.
What, are you having Tommy John surgery too, or is it the lat, the oblique? What is it?
No, it's time to take a trip to the mound.
All right. Mound visit here for those of you joining us for the first time in our spring training tours here. This is where Mac gets to fire something at me, and I have no idea what the hell he's going to ask. And if you followed us long enough, you know, if I have no idea what Mac's going to do with something, buckle up because it could be dangerous. Go for it.
All right. So I've been thinking about rule changes, and some have been good and some have been bad. So I'm going to throw this out. My son's playing his final year of high school baseball, and one of the things that they have is they have pitching limits. You can pitch a certain number of pitches, and then you have to take a certain number of days off. What do you think about that? So say, for instance, you pitch, you come in, you're a starter. We'll just say a starter. You pitch 110 pitches. You can't pitch now for 4 days. You're a relief pitcher. You come in and you throw 20, 25 pitches. You have to have a mandatory day off. You're a relief pitcher. You come in and throw 40 or 50 pitches. You have to have a mandatory 2 days off. So pitch limits. Pitch a certain number.
Absolutely not. This is the big leagues, man. We do that at the lower levels for good reasons to try and prevent arm injuries. But, you know, I think more of a thing as my camera goes crazy. Hold on here.
But here's going to be my thing.
It's more of a thing to prevent injuries to young players. I wish somebody would have done it to me because I got the scars on my arm, as you can see, to show from all those years of probably pitching over limits that weren't existent when I pitched. But I don't think you could ever, the players union would never go for it first and foremost. I think the biggest problem we have in Major League Baseball is that the season is too damn long. That would be my solution to, I think the season's too long. And I've said this a couple of times, and I don't know if I've ever asked you if you agreed with me or not on it, because I'm a selfish asshole like that. But I think spring training is way too damn long. And the amount of injuries that we see in spring training, and I get it, you get it. You played at a way higher level than I did. Like, injuries are going to happen in any sport, but especially in baseball. I think spring training is too long, and I think the season is too long. That would be something that I think would be a deterrent, hopefully, to pitching injuries. But I'm not a doctor. I just play one on the radio.
Well, I mean, Major League Baseball has gone through. I mean, you say that they try not to limit pitchers, but they do. Where the whole extra innings is all about pitchers. I mean, that's the whole thing. The whole thing about extra inning was that teams would use pitchers, and these games would go on and on and on, and all of a sudden the next day they come up with a aggravated eyelid and get put on the DL so they could bring somebody up, to pitch because they had, so I mean, baseball does it in a way. So that's why stop
talking about Taijuan Walker and Marcus Stroman like that. Okay, here, let me fire one back at you before we get to the Phillies. The weirdest injury you can remember. And I'm going to give you two that come to mind for me. I can't remember the guy's name. But it was the most hilarious story I've ever seen. I'm pretty sure it was Pat Venditte, and I don't know if that's the right way to pronounce his name. He was an amphibious pitcher.
Venditte, yeah.
And he was on the disabled list for elbow discomfort. And I read the headline and I was like, in both elbows? I mean, is he Jim Carlos Stanton at that point? Like, he can throw with both arms. Why is he on the disabled list with elbow discomfort? The other one was last year, and this sounded like it was ridiculously scary, and it sounds scary, But Dustin May tore his esophagus eating a friggin' salad, and he was out for the whole season. I mean, that's wretched. And that just goes to show people, don't eat vegetables and don't eat salads. They're literally can cost you an entire Major League Baseball season. What's the weirdest injury you can remember?
Well, one that I remember, and I don't remember who it was, but I remember a guy that he had to sneeze, and he sneezed and he hurt his back, and he was out for a while. I
also did that a couple months ago, but I didn't cost anybody 17 starts and a couple $1 million.
The worst one that I ever saw was when I was catching a fly ball, went to left field, and the left fielder was coming in, and he flipped his shades down, and I could see the sun reflect off of his shades, what I thought were his shades, and it wasn't. He just had sunglasses on, and he missed it, and his sunglasses went all over the place, and he came out, and he was all cut up with the sunglasses and stuff. That was the worst on-field baseball injury I ever saw.
I took one in low-level ball. You remember the soft baseballs, as you graduated up, you went from T-ball, and then you start looking at a fly ball. I was playing right field at the time, misjudged it right off my friggin' eye socket. My dad still laughs about it to this day. Hurt like a son of a bitch. But all right, enough about our rando injuries. If you can remember the most random injury that you can think of, feel free to drop it in the comments right there. But let's talk about the Philadelphia Phillies. I think there's a lot of eyeballs on this team. 95-67 last year. We've got a lot of things we can say about the Phillies, but I cannot go any further. Kyle Schwarber, maybe, if he stays in the leadoff spot. We'll talk about that in a second. But lead us off on the Phillies. First thoughts on the Philadelphia Phillies.
The Philadelphia Phillies need to find the October light and just go for it, because this may be the light might be going out. This might be it. This might be it for the Phillies. So find that October light. Go for the light. This could be the year, Philly. If not, the light may be going out.
Well, I have the number one key for the Phillies. It's simple. Don't win the division. In 2022, they went from the wild card to the World Series. In 2023, they went from the wild card to Game 7 of the NLCS. Last year, they win their first division title since 2011. They lose in the NLDS. Ironically, their last division title, they lost that year in the NLDS too. So it's simple. There you go.
They got the regular
and Dave Dombrowski. I figured it out for you. Just don't win the damn division, and you're fine.
Yeah, they get the regular season figured out. The last 3 years, like you said, they've been better every year. So they may blow people away in the East, but man, come October, they just all of a sudden, I don't know, maybe they're getting paid by the hour.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this pitching rotation as we always do with every team. We're going to start with the arms, because it goes a long way to your postseason success, but it might very well be the best pitching rotation in all of baseball. But I will say this first and foremost right here. And every team has an all-star break, and every team assesses around the trade deadline. There is no team in Major League Baseball this year more than the Phillies that will be playing 2 seasons in one. I really believe that Dave Dombrowski is going to take this team to July 31st in the trade deadline and assess the situation, and he does it better than basically everybody in baseball. I think he's going to take them to that trade deadline, and if they need to make a big move, and it means shipping off a Nick Castellanos, Alec Bohm, somebody like that, I think he's going to pull the trigger this year, because this team has got a lot of question marks after this season. You've got Aaron Nola, who's developed this recent trend of one bad inning sinks any good start he has. Obviously, the news that came out, I think it was on Sunday in the midst of all the basketball that was going on, Ranger Suarez is going to start the year on the IL for them. So that means we're looking at a couple of guys, maybe a Joe Ross, Taijuan Walker. I know they're still having conversations about this that can fill in. Zach Wheeler, he's not getting younger. He's going to be 35 at the end of May. First time in his career last year, Mac, that he went back-to-back years over 200 innings pitched. So they might be the best staff in baseball, but this is also a very well-worked staff in baseball. And that's an interesting dynamic of them this year.
Yeah, we used this word for a couple of teams, but it's very true of this team. There's one word that they need to put it, and it's just stay healthy. This team needs to stay healthy. They really do. They had a lot of injuries last year, both pitching and the regular players, and you just go down this lineup, but we know that their lineup is really good. And like you said, this is probably, if they're not the best pitching staff, they're number 2 at the most, probably number 3 in all of Major League Baseball. They come at you from different ways. They have a good bullpen. This is a team, and that's why I said, I used the idea that the lights going dim, but listen, it is, and you hit it. It's that guy, Dave Dombrowski. He wants to win. Not next year, not the year after. He doesn't care that he won a year ago. He cares about the present. That's what he cares about. And if you're not playing well, he's going to find someone who'll take your spot. And that's all there is to it. He's the wheeler. He's the gambler. He's the wheeler dealer guy.
Yeah, and there's a couple of guys that I think it really kind of is pinpointed on. And I mentioned Zach Wheeler being 35 at the end of May. Aaron Nola's also got this other weird trend of odd years and even years. In even years, 3.07 ERA. In odd years, a 4.32 ERA. Call it a fluke or whatever, but it's kind of been a trend. Well, hopefully that reverses. The other thing is, and we mentioned Suarez, but Suarez start the year last year, he was 10-1 with a 1.75 ERA in his first 15. And I know I mentioned him. I know you mentioned him on MLB Monday a couple of times. A guy that was probably in the mix to be the Cy Young last year. And then after that, he dealt with some injuries, only made 12 starts. He went 4-8 with a 6.17 ERA, still dealing with some injuries here. But I think one thing that the Phillies have done this year is they're better set up to handle the injuries this year for a couple of reasons. You've got Joe Ross in the bullpen who can start. Taijuan Walker, whether he's got anything left in the tank or not, I know Philly fans are very hate-love with him, and for good reasons, but he can start. And at some point, and I think this is kind of the real wild card for the Phillies, Andrew Painter is going to come back at some point. And if Andrew Painter comes back, and he's on, that's the difference maker right there that can take a lot of pressure off a lot of these starters for Philadelphia.
So if you don't know the name Andrew Painter, you should. Okay, because there's Paul Skeens, and Paul Skeens is great. We know that. But if you were to construct a pitcher, you wouldn't take a Paul Skeens body. You take an Andrew Painter body. This guy, he may not throw as hard as Skeens, but what he does is to be able to take speed off of his pitches. He's going to be, 96, 93. He's got a good breaking pitch. He's not ready quite yet. I watched him a little bit in the Arizona Fall League. I saw some. I'm telling you, the top pitching prospect in baseball. He really, truly is. He is, from a catching standpoint, so much fun to watch pitch. I'm very, very excited. I would think around that time, I think a June, July time, we'll probably see him up there to make a difference for the Phillies. But remember that name. He is all of that and then some.
Yeah, recovering from Tommy John surgery, and he was around all spring, very upbeat, very up-spirited, really excited to return. And the other thing with the Phillies is when you get into the bullpen here, and we've got some new faces in the bullpen. Jordan Romano, he's going to get the first crack at the closer role. He comes over from Toronto. Jose Alvarado also there. We know about the great Orion Kirkering and how good he's been for them. Matt Strom, shoulder possible for opening day. I haven't seen anything yet today, but there's another arm in the bullpen. They've got Ruiz. They've got Devin Sweet. I think the one thing that the Phillies have learned over the last couple of years is they're very well set up for the injuries amongst the pitching staff. And that's huge because the guys who haven't been injured, we had 4 starters last year that made at least 27 starts. They threw a lot of innings last year. If the Phillies can keep these guys healthy and really their depth comes in like they're expecting it to, again, I don't have an issue, and I have a hard time naming a better staff in baseball. I do think the Phillies have the best pitching staff in all of baseball, and they're set up to handle that injury this year. Final word on the pitching before we move over to the fun part of the fightings.
Yeah, I mean, and one guy we mentioned his name a little bit, is Jesus Luzardo, who they got over. I mean, again, he kind of, and that's kind of the whole point. That's how good their staff is. You know, you talk Wheeler and Nola and Suarez, and then you still got Luzardo right there. I mean, this is a fun staff. This is a fun staff.
Yeah, and if the Phillies get 22 and 23, 2022, 2023, Jesus Luzardo, oh my goodness. Christopher Sanchez is another guy that I think is very underrated when it comes to their pitching staff. All right, let's talk about the fun part of the Phillies and the thing that really turns it into bedlam at the bank in October, and that's this offensive lineup here and some interesting stuff here. And I'm going to be very interested to see their opening day lineup and their lineup 14 days from now. Will Kyle Schwarber stay in the leadoff hole? That's kind of been a talk, at least a conversation piece amongst people in Philadelphia going into this season. He did hit leadoff basically all spring, but does he get slid back to fourth? Trey Turner in the 2-hole. Does he go back to a leadoff spot? And, the thing with Trey Turner is in the first half last year, he was putting up borderline MVP numbers. Second half of the season, he wasn't great. And he'd be the first one to tell you he wasn't great. By the way, two guys on this team that I absolutely, Mike's man crush, like conceptually started with. Excuse my dogs for barking in the background. Always great when you buy a new house and your brand new AC unit, the first time it has to go on starts not working. So that's been fun to deal with around here all day long. But speaking of hot, we've seen what Kyle Schwarber does when he's hot. Give me your thoughts here, Mac, on at least the overall, before we get into the nuts and bolts and different guys of this Phillies lineup from an offensive standpoint.
The Phillies didn't do a whole lot in the offseason, but the one thing that they did, it makes me kind of wonder where they're going, and that's signing Max Kepler. Absolutely love the signing of Kepler. He hurt a little bit last year with the Twins, but this is a guy he's a little bit above average fielder, but a really, really good lefty bat for them. My thinking is this. If you've brought Kepler over, he's got to play. There's a reason you brought him over. So where does he play? That's my thing. Where does he play? And so is he going to take at-bats away from Marsh? I don't know. I don't think he'll take him away from Castellanos. That's for sure. So I'm just curious about that move. I like the move. I think it's a great move for them, but I'm just trying to figure out where he actually fits kind of into this whole scheme of things.
I am very bullish on Max Kepler. I think he's a 20-homer, 80 RBI guy for them. A lot of the talk here in the spring has been that it looks like, at least to start the year, that Topper's he's gonna give Brandon Marsh a chance for every day at bats, and that's kind of been an interesting kind of saga, if you will, in Philadelphia. Can he hit left-handed pitching? The biggest hole I think for the Phillies is what are they doing in center field? I mean, obviously Nick Castellanos is not going to play center field, and then Brandon Marsh probably isn't. So you would think it's going to be Kepler. They also have Johan Rojas there as well, but I think the center field hole, and this sounds crazy to say this about the Phillies. I think the Phillies desperately need another right-handed power-hitting bat. And that, again, it sounds insane to say that when we're talking about the Phillies. There's guys on this team like Alec Bohm. Now, I'm gonna make my bold prediction on Alec Bohm here. I think because his name was the top of the list for every piece of trade talk leading into the offseason. And you know how the city of Philadelphia is and how they can get behind their sports stars when they need a pick-me-up. We saw it a couple of years ago with Trey Turner. I think Alec Bohm could have an insanely good year this year. I think he heard all that chatter. He knows they kept him, but he knows that, hey, I got to be better than I was last year. I think Alec Bohm could have a ridiculous year this year because of all that talk in the offseason. remains to be seen. But that's a guy I'm looking at on this offense.
No, I agree. And this is and look at the clubhouse too. You have to know that somebody like Harper, somebody like Schwarber, or even somebody like Trey Turner, they've all gone through some sort of struggles in their career. And this is a great locker room to, if you've had a struggle and they've all hurt. Hell, Bryce Harper, since he's been Bryce Harper, has had, people chirping at him. So if, what better guy than Bryce Harper to go to and just, for him to understand a little bit of a struggle here and there and how to overcome them. So I do agree. I think this is a really good team for Bohm to be on with all of that stuff, going on around him. But like we talked about at the very beginning, if he doesn't produce, they're going to need to find somebody to be in that spot. And he was, like it or not, on the high list of trades for a lot of teams. So third base, I don't know who's out there. I don't know what would work. But, this is as good a lineup as you see. I mean, they're as good as the Atlanta Braves lineup. Health, again, a lot of it. Again, I like what the Phillies can do. But again, there are a few question marks here.
Yeah, sorry, there's a deep drive to left field. When you look at it and a couple of decisions here for the Phillies as they get closer, and we found out today, and I got to thank Luke Arcani from the guys over at Crossing Broad. Luke, if I butchered your last name, I apologize. But Cody Clemens has been told he will make the team. The Phillies are going to try and trade Buddy Kennedy. If they don't trade Buddy Kennedy, they're going to have to DFA him. So interesting moves as far as filling out the bench goes for the Phils. The only outfielders that they're expected to keep, again, are Rojas, Kepler, Marsh, and Castellanos. Rafael Marchand is going to be the backup catcher. They did send Garrett Stubbs down to AAA, and that was simply a Stubbs has options, Marchand doesn't. So Bryson Stott is another guy I think is really key for the Phils too. He played all year last year. We found out with an injured elbow. That definitely hindered his performance. And you mentioned Bryce Harper, and I want to give Bryce, not that he needs the flowers, but I think this is a very underrated part of Bryce Harper's game. First year as a first baseman last year, he finished 6th in the MVP or in his second year at first base, 6th in the MVP. He's a guy that could win the Gold Glove at first base. So you're taking a guy who's always been an outfielder. He's been a DH. We know what he does at the plate. I mean, just the morphing of the career as Bryce Harper continues to go along here. I'm interested to see what they do in that 1-2 spot, though. I think the Turner Schwarber thing is probably the most intriguing thing to me. But I think Bohm's going to have a good year, a really good year. I think Kepler's a great sign there. Brandon Marsh is going to be an experience, and Phillies fans know that. Can he hit left-handed pitching? If he does, that makes the Phillies better. If not, there's another thing on Dave Dombrowski's shopping list for middle of July.
Well, and it's been on his shopping list since last year. Mm-hmm. I mean, we talked. I mean, I think I remember talking about it, ad nauseum. It seemed like every week we were kind of like, are they going to get an outfielder? They're going to get an outfielder. I really thought maybe they do something in the off season. I don't think there was really a whole lot out there anyway. But they will. And I think, number one, their bench isn't all that great. It doesn't matter. Their benches are going to play. You've got veterans who are going out there every day and playing. Yeah. You're just hoping that you don't get the injury thing. I mean, and here's the thing. They know. Every single person on this team knows what you said at the beginning when you introduced the Philadelphia Phillies. They're going to get help. It's coming. There's just no doubt about it. In one way or another, Dombrowski is not going to sit with his hands folded and let this trade deadline go and let this window of opportunity pass. It's just not. And he knows listen, they're in a competitive division. I mean, the Braves and the Mets are going to give them a run for the money. And then your favorite little team, the Nationals too. they're going to be that little bug for everybody. But Dombrowski doesn't sit around. You know, he may fire the first shot. Who knows? I mean, he may fire the first shot as early as May. He doesn't wait around.
Yeah, and speaking of the Nationals, not to get off topic here, I saw today they were supposed to play an exhibition game at Nationals Park in inclement weather, because we never see that. I mean, why would we use dome stadiums? That's a whole different argument for a whole different day at the beginning of the year. Bob Carpenter is stepping down at the end of this season, the famous play-by-play voice for the Nats. And, you know, as we go through all these spring training tours and everything, and you and I have had this conversation a few different times, you know, certain broadcasters that we love to listen to and everything, it's going to be really weird for the last time this year when Bob Carpenter says see you later for the last time for the Nats. But Tom McCarthy and John Kruk, my God, I can't listen to these guys together in the booth enough. So a lot of exciting things in Philadelphia. We will get to our full season previews, our World Series picks, our Cy Youngs, MVPs, division winners of the Nines. That'll be on Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, 5:30 Pacific. Mac, it's time to play a game on the Philadelphia Phillies. National League East. They have the second best odds to win the division at plus 215 behind Atlanta and ahead of the New York Mets. Third best odds to win the National League pennant at plus 650. They have the fourth best odds behind the Dodgers, Braves, and Yankees in that order. How the Yankees are still up there with Clark Schmidt now hurt, I have no idea. They're a 12-1 to win the World Series. Over-under on wins for the Phils is 91.5. To miss the playoffs, to make the playoffs, they're a minus 265. To miss the playoffs, they're a plus 220. And because it's the Phils, I'm going to throw out two more for you. Cy Young Award for Zach Wheeler. He's a plus 750. And of course, I wasn't going to talk about the Phillies without giving you the odds. For Bryce Harper to be the National League MVP, he is 14-1 at plus 1,400. Well, you think of that. Tomorrow, the LA Dodgers. And then again, as I just mentioned, on Wednesday, we have the season preview show where we're going to drag TJ out of mothballs and bring him back with us for that one. And then opening day baseball that you can't watch anywhere on national TV. All right, Mac, $100 of my money on the Fightins. What are you doing?
Oh my gosh, I can't wait for Wednesday. It's going to be so much fun. That's all I got to say.
Why do you say so much fun? What are you anticipating?
And the best part is I don't need to buy a ticket.
Nope. Nope. We let you do this shit for free.
Oh my gosh.
Literally.
I'm gonna take the Phils to win the East.
Phils to win the East at a plus 215. All right. Again, the Dodgers tomorrow by themselves. That'll be live. It'll be a little bit later, probably more towards the 6 o'clock hour on the West Coast, 9 o'clock on the East Coast, and then our season preview show. Obviously, follow us on all of our social channels at Mike Arana's Show everywhere but Snapchat. For Vegas Mac, for TJ, for everybody behind the scenes. We will talk with you tomorrow. We are out.